Hello, hello, everybody. I'm super excited about today's interview. We're going to be talking about how to go to college debt free. And if y'all have been around me, y'all know how I feel about student loan debt. In fact, my whole platform was birthed out of my own story of paying off over $78,000 in student loan debt. But we want to talk about how do we avoid that from the beginning? How do we get to college debt free? How do we get our kids into college debt free? So I'm here with Chris Corinthian. He's going to talk about how to get to college debt free. How to whatever the game is. Like we need to know because listen, my kids aren't college age yet. However, we are saving for their college, and I just cannot imagine by the time they go to college how much it will be. So, Chris, first of all, tell us who you are, how you got in this space, all that jazz.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for allowing me to speak on your platform to your audience, because it's truly a privilege and an honor for me to speak to you and to your audience. So, thank you for the invitation.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, absolutely. So, how I got into this space. So, if we back up to when I was in college, right, many, many moons ago, I went to school, graduated high school with honors, was on scholarship when I went. But let's just say I didn't put my priorities where they should have been when I got to college. So, you know how you're supposed to work hard, then play hard, right? I was like,
Right.
I play hard and then play a little harder, and then if I had time to work, then I'd work hard, right? And I was one of those students in high school where I was, naturally smart. Like I can study for an exam the last minute or cram for a test, write a paper last minute, and get A's on them, right? But you can't
Mm-hmm.
sustain those habits when you're in college, right? And so
You're
I tried
right.
to do that, and I learned really quickly with that failing GPA that first semester how that was not sustainable. And that's what ended up happening. I ended up losing my scholarships. Then I had to take out student loans, right? And then I ended up getting my scholarship back, but getting my scholarships back didn't get rid of the student loans, right? And then,
Listen.
yeah, and then it was just a downward spiral after that, right? But then fast forward, we could probably segue into this, but I got into higher education. I taught K through 12 for a little bit, and then I got into higher ed, and I worked at a few universities. But one thing I started seeing over and over again were that there were a lot of first generation college students that would go to school that had no clue about this whole experience, how to get everything set up. Because the narrative today is student loans is the norm. Like you're supposed to
Mm-hmm.
take out student loans to go to college, right? But that is not the case. Like there are other ways that other things you can do, which we'll talk about on how to prevent that from even happening. Like you can do things now, even if you waited to the last minute, there's still some things you could do now to where you never have to take out a student loan. So ended up working at a university, working in financial aid and financial literacy, and I was able to help those students avoid a lot of the mistakes that I myself made, as well as other students that I saw along the way make.
That is awesome. So I'm glad you use your experience within the industry, but you know what I mean, like in financial aid to help. Because
Right.
listen, when I tell you student loans are normalized, I went to college in 2000, dating myself, right? The fact 2006, not even
Okay. Okay. Okay.
not even past 10.
Yeah, you're still a youngin' compared to me though, so we ain't gonna talk about that. All right, I go back some more, right?
But when I went, that was the thing. I remember. So my story is like I could not. I didn't qualify for financial aid. So both of my parents worked. My dad was military. My mom was in education. Nonetheless, I couldn't do financial aid, so I had to get loans. So they were paying part of it, and then everything else was in student loan debt. Well, 18 years old, I didn't know what I was signing. Like
Hmm.
I just remember having to sign these documents. Little did I know I was signing off like 30 years of my life had I let it go that long. And so I think a lot of people come into your point, they come into college not knowing the implications of what they're doing. All you hear is go to college, get an education because you want to get a good job, but they don't tell you that you are signing away all hundred some people hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt when like you have no plan or line of sight to being able to pay that off, and that there are other alternatives to help pay for that. So I did have a little bit of scholarships, but when I tell you undergrad, I think I had 24,000, and then by the time I finished grad school, let me tell you this: grad school alone was 54,000 for
By
one
itself.
year.
By itself.
1 year
One
by
oh
itself.
yeah. Yeah.
1 year. And I
Yeah.
was like, what was I thinking? Now,
Hmm.
mind you, I don't even work in my field anymore. I'm in entrepreneurship, but
Right.
I don't even work in my field. But I think there's just not enough education, especially to your point, for first generation college students on how they can get to college if that's their goal and be
Right.
able to effectively afford it and not put themselves at a financial disadvantage coming out of college.
Yeah. And to the point you just said about how a lot of us are taught, the road to success or the path to success, go to school, get a good job, go to school, make good grades, get a high paying job. And that's the formula for success. Right. So I followed that. I went to school, I ended up graduating with honors, and I got the high paying job. But then fast forward the day after my son was born, and I'm skipping a lot, but the day after my son was born, my oldest son, I was working for $1 billion company, and they said, "Congratulations, Chris, on your new boy, but we have to let you go." The day after. So, first child, emotions running high. I'm excited, a little anxious,
That is,
nervous,
ooh,
all of that. And then I get hit with that. Like the highest high from my supervisor saying congratulations. So that just, upped it up some more of my feeling great. And then seconds later, "Well, we had to let you go." My wife wasn't working at the time.
oh no.
Yeah. Wife wasn't working at the time. I'm not working anymore, right? And then to make matters worse, 2 months after that, 2 months, literally 2 months, 2.5 months after that, um, we were staying in an apartment, and the girl across the hall upstairs, she left the stove on, and the whole apartment building went up in flames. And guess who didn't have renter's insurance?
Oh
We did.
no.
We were like, why am I going to pay that $12 a month for renter's insurance? I don't know how much it was, but it was pennies, right? And so, because it wasn't required, at the time, and I was like, I'm not gonna, like, I'm responsible, but because somebody else is irresponsible, it can still
Right.
affect you, right? That's why you have to have, you know, defensive driving and all these other things because of other people, not necessarily because of you. But anyway, lost everything in an apartment fire, no job, and then Red Cross had to give us a $250 gift card so we can get close to Walmart because we lost everything. And so it was a real wake up call because even when I was working for that $1 billion company, I was getting paid double in salary, like literally double in salary than what I was getting paid before in my previous job. And so the lifestyle didn't change that much. So now we had all this income to the little bit of expenses, relatively speaking. So we were getting all these baby clothes and, cribs and all this stuff, taking trips and everything. So depleted my savings, didn't have any savings because everything was going into the baby stuff. When the baby gets here, we got all this stuff. I'll just stack my savings back up. But that just threw everything. And so that's why I'm on a mission to teach the younger generation or just teach people in general about the financial literacy principles. But yeah, that path to success is not a reality. Like people think it is, but then they hit reality and it was just like, wait, this is not how things are supposed to go, right?
So that's that. First of all, that's a wild journey, right? From
Yes.
having a kid to then literally losing your home and essentially being homeless at that point, right?
Right.
So similar situation in that the reason why I'm so passionate about people paying off debt and having financial freedom is so we had paid off my student loans. So
Hmm.
that got paid off. And like shortly after my husband and I got married, so 6 months after we got married, we had completely paid everything off.
That's good.
In addition to what I had paid off. Um, the next year, so we save up to buy a house. The next year we buy a house. We bought our house in May.
Hmm.
In September, I was laid off.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh
when I
wow.
so
Yeah.
when
You're
I
like, okay, we got the plan, we got everything calculated. Okay, we're good, we're safe, we're secure. Let's go.
when I tell you, so this is why I'm just an advocate of pay off the debt, make responsible financial decisions because life happens. Now,
Life.
thankfully, I was able to get a job after that, like immediately, but still the thought, like, oh my goodness, like
Hmm.
I literally just bought my house and y'all literally telling me we right sizing the company. Like,
Right, exactly. Right size. And you're like,
what do
okay.
you mean
Or
after I
we're
told you
letting
all
you
this
go. You're not letting me go. I don't want to go anywhere. What you mean you let me go? Like,
Now,
don't.
I will say I did want to go
Yeah,
somewhere,
you're like,
but
okay, looking back
listen,
now, I'm trying to get out of here.
but anyway, but to that point, student loans doesn't help the situation.
No.
So And I guess in that scenario, did you still have student loans at that time,
Hmm.
or okay,
Yes. Oh
so
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
okay,
Those those don't go anywhere, right? Now I know there are initiatives with student loan forgiveness and IBRs, which is income based repayment and things like that. And just a quick side note: if you want to find out more about any type of student loan forgiveness or income based repayment or anything, you can go to studentaid.gov, and they'll tell you all the information about all the plans that the Department of Education has rolled out. Because there's so much information, just go there right to the source and they'll just give you everything laid out right there. Yep,
cool.
studentaid.gov. And so yeah, that is that's crazy.
So tell me, so now when I went to college, obviously it was expensive. I mean, I'm walking out with $78,000 in loans, and that was over a decade ago. What is the average cost of college for students today? And I guess obviously it's going to vary private versus public, in-state versus out-state. But
Mhm.
for the average student who's going to an in-state institution, what can they expect to even pay to go to college?
Yeah, across the board, and many statistics show education data, all different type of statistical sites. The average now, just for tuition and fees, is between 10 and 30,000. Now, the cost of attendance per year, if you're staying on campus, meaning room and board, right, room and board, housing and food, and tuition and fees, all the fees, everything lumped together, the average is 55,000 a year.
A, I was going to ask you. I was
A
like,
year,
a year.
a year.
You know, some people, the average person probably doesn't make that in income per year for a
Right,
job. So
right.
make that make sense. Even
Right.
like,
Exactly. It's like the system is skewed to work against you, right? Like, yeah. And so that's why I come in and I said, listen, you don't even have to go that route. Don't worry about student loans because you're not going to need them if we are proactive in, implementing the steps, which we'll talk about. But yeah, that's the average. That is the average. I was blown away when I saw it. I was like, okay, 10,000. Okay. That's not bad. 10, okay, 30. And then the next sentence said, now the total cost of attendance on average is 55. I thought the top part was everything.
no,
No, I kept reading.
no.
And
And that's
so
wild to say that you're going to come out of college not even making that annually. And that's already going to be compounded over the amount of years that you stay in college. Like, it just does not make sense unless
correct.
you have a trajectory to have like a high paying career in an
Mhm,
industry that's even so. My background is engineering. Even in that industry where you think you have job security,
mhm,
there's still volatility, right? And we
right.
saw a bunch of layoffs within the tech space as well. So nothing is guaranteed. So anyway, let's talk about how parents can actually help their kids go to college debt free. So what are those steps? When should they get started? All that stuff.
Okay, great question. So if you're starting early enough, and that's relative, you can always open up a 529 college savings plan. That's one of the more popular
Mm.
ones. That's easy to set up. Most of them you can set up with as low as $25 to set up and start that. So some people are like, well, I don't have that much money to invest to start that. $25 you can get started, and you could just do your own research and go online, and they'll have the comparisons, the pros and the cons with each of the different financial institutions where you could set that up, right? Um, and then just use your discretion at which one ever you feel most comfortable with. But usually they'll probably give you like three different options that are really really good that everybody's talking about. When you go on there and research, you'll see which ones I'm talking about. But yeah, just open up 529 now. If you're one of those parents who are like, okay, my child's a junior in high school, my child's a senior in high school, my child is in college now, like
Mhm.
what do I do? Because I cannot afford to take out any more student loans, right? This is how you approach it, right? The very first cost, especially if you're in parent of a high schooler, then you want to figure out what the cost is going to be, what the exact cost of school is going to be, because you'll be surprised that there are many parents that will come, especially if this is the first time they're going through this process, and they're like, okay, how much is it again? Like that's not what the paper said, right? Like
Mhm.
they might look at the tuition and fees, but then they won't factor in the like student activity fees and transportation fees and housing and meals and all these other things that cluster together to make the cost of attendance. And that term is pretty consistent among all the colleges, cost of attendance. And then when they see the cost of attendance cost, they're like, okay, well, I didn't have this much saved up. And then that's when they turn to student loans. And then even if they don't have enough with the federal student loans, right, which is a set amount per student, then they go to the private student loans. And
Mm-hmm.
those usually have a faster repayment plan and the interest rate is a lot higher.
Ridiculous.
Right. And yeah, the thing with federal student loans is that you could defer until 6 months after the last day of class. So, and the reason I say last day of class is because if you say last day, 6 months after graduation, some students don't end up graduating. So they'll just mark it based on the last day of attendance, and they'll go 6 months after that before you start paying on your student loans.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so that's the first step, and then the next step. I don't know if you want me to just roll out the whole plan for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So this is how we'll be able to tackle this issue, right? So one of the big chunks, right? One of the big pieces to this puzzle is that it's scholarships, right? It's scholarships. Now, there's a blueprint or a roadmap that'll help you increase the likelihood that you'll get scholarships, or at least get enough scholarships to where you can pay for college, right? And then we'll talk about something else that you can do. Even worst case scenario, you don't get 100% paid with grants and scholarships. So the first thing is finding the scholarships, or rather having the scholarships find you, because some
Mm.
students, a lot of parents and students don't know where to apply for these scholarships, right? And so there are different portals and scholarship portals and platforms to where you could put in a lot of detailed information about yourself or about the student up front, and then they'll go out and find it. Because some will just, just try to find stuff randomly, and there's no succinct plan for you. So what you could do is you could use platforms such as Scholly, right? Little background about Scholly. Scholly was just sold or acquired by Sally Mae, but the guy who created, yeah,
The
right,
irony.
the irony, right? So Scholly was founded by Christopher Gray. Christopher Gray, he grew up in Alabama. Parts of his senior year in high school, he and his mom were homeless, and he was like, the only way I'm able to get out of this situation is if I go to college. He applies for over 100 scholarships and gets over $1.3 million in scholarships. So he goes to the university of his choice. He goes to Drexel University, right? And then he meets a couple partners and he creates a software known as Scholly. And then it got, mainstream. A lot of people started buying into it because he cracked the code on finding scholarships. So now he's like, let me create a platform created by a student for students to help students navigate the scholarship process. And then he was on Shark Tank. Damon John and a couple other sharks ended up picking up or investing in Scholly. And then the rest was history. And then they've helped students earn, like, receive over millions of dollars in scholarships. Okay. Now that's Scholly, right? And then you have other platforms such as bold.org, Scholarship Owl, and there are tons. There are a number of them, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so what I'll do is, for your listeners, I'll give you the link for chapter 5 in my book, which is all about everything I'm talking about, everything about scholarships. They can have this for free. All right. And it'll help them walk through the process. Okay. So that's finding the scholarships. The next thing is, if I find the scholarships, I don't know what to write about. I don't feel like writing these essays. Right. And so here's the other thing. You have to apply for at least 100 scholarships in order to get scholarships. I tell everybody that. Everybody that I've worked with and everybody that I've seen get scholarships, one of the common themes is that they've applied for over 100 scholarships. Now, many don't even have to apply for 100 scholarships, but everybody that I've seen applied for 100
Mm-hmm.
scholarships that they were qualified for, not necessarily like, okay, I'm a guy and I'm applying for a scholarship for women, right? Like, that doesn't count. I apply for, well, let's see which one you apply for, okay? Like, this says 3.5 and you got a 1.2. Like, that's not gonna work. And so over 100 scholarships, and then this is the thing, essays. I'm going to tell you about the 5 essential essays. Once you get these 5 essays done, you can wash, rinse, and repeat them. And these are going to be the 5 most common questions that will be asked on the scholarship applications. Once you have these 5 essays, you'll apply for 2 a day. And if you apply for 2 scholarships a day over the next 2 months, that's 120 scholarships.
Listen, I wish I had this, first of
Right.
all.
No, I wish I had it. Right. And so so I'll break down the 5 scholarships, because once you have these 5 essays, then it'll take 15, 20, 30 minutes at the most to apply for 2 scholarships a day. Every student I've asked this, I said, if you have your essays out the way and you had the scholarships to apply for ready and available for you every single morning when you wake up, do you think you can apply for 2 a day? And all the hands go up. They're like, oh, I can do that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to think about what I'm writing about, and the scholarships are right there for me. Absolutely. And so here go the 5 scholarships, 5 essential essays that you want to have. Once you have these 5, then I'll tell you what to do with them. So number 1 is the rags to riches essay.
Mm.
Your rags to riches essay. This is a common theme that you'll see a lot of scholarship donors ask. What this is talking about is some type of challenge or obstacle that you've had to overcome and how you've overcome it, right? You don't want to stay in the struggle phase. You want to talk about, okay, I've been through that or I experienced this and now I'm here and this is where I plan to go. You want
Mm-hmm.
to show your resilience, okay? You want to show that you have resilience. And when you show the donors or organizations that you have resilience, they know without a shadow of a doubt, if you get hit on hard times while you're in college, you're not going to drop out. You're going to keep pushing through. And then it's going to not just make you look good, but it's going to make the donors look good because they feel good in supporting you reach your ultimate goal.
Gotcha.
Okay. It doesn't always have to be what I call a Tyler Perry experience, right? Like it's not always external challenges, but some
Right.
of them could be internal. Like one of my students, she had some if she didn't perform at a certain level, then she would get depressed or anxious and she would start feeling bad about herself. So then what did she do? That was a rags part. She started focusing on different mental health strategies. She started getting into yoga and she started, learning about some of these strategies that helped her overcome that, and now she's in a better place because of it.
Gotcha.
And then she actually segued into another essay we'll talk about in a little bit. But that's your rags to riches essay. Your next one is your leadership slash impact essay. Where have you shown different types of leadership? Where have you shown to be a leader? How have you made an impact in your community, or how have you made an impact in your school or in your home? Right? Like, how have you been a leader? Because some students might not be a leader in an organization in high school
Mm-hmm.
or college, but let's say that every day when they come home, they're taking care of a family member that's terminally ill or very ill, or elderly person or somebody that has some type of disability, right? Then they could talk about that experience. And because of their role in the family, that's showing how they're a leader there, right? So it doesn't always have to be tied to a specific organization, so to speak, right?
Gotcha.
Um, and then the next one is, what will you do with the money? There are organizations that say, if we give you this 10, if we give you this $20,000, what are your plans for the money? Okay. Outside of the tuition and fees, like what else is there? Okay. Now I'll be able to afford housing. Now I can afford my lab equipment, right? Now I can pay my student association fees for this regional or national organization that's tied to my major. I don't have to sleep on my friend's couch, right? Now I don't have to borrow books. Now I can get my own books, right? And so you can paint the picture of exactly what it is that you're going to do with the money once you get it, right? And then your next one is your major slash career goals. What do you plan on doing in your major and your career? And most specifically, why are you getting into that field in the first place? Why are you passionate about it? Here's another thing. What are you going to do to make an impact in that field?
Mm-hmm.
When you start thinking about impact and you start thinking about paying it forward, a lot of donors tend to think, positively of that mindset because they themselves are paying it forward by helping somebody reach your goal. So when you're talking in that same language or same energy, like I plan on paying it forward too, and that's how you're showing how. So Taylor, this is what she did. That was my student that did that had the challenges where she taught about mental health, mental
Mm-hmm.
wellness. So what she did was she took that, and she's in forensic field. So she wants to take those strategies and apply it to that field, to apply it to the forensics field,
Wow.
because that's a high stress environment that you have to
Ah.
deal with. So now if you implement a lot of those strategies, then a lot of people can unpack and know how to deal, or process rather,
Right.
process a lot better, right? And so that's what she ended up doing, and she ended up winning a $10,000 scholarship. She ended up winning it twice. And she didn't even need an essay. Like this is so I'll just talk about this one scholarship. It's a Taco Bell Live My scholarship. She ended up applying for it. She got $10,000 for a 2-minute video, and then she did it again the next year. And then she got another. So that's $20,000 for 4 minutes worth of video,
Wow.
and no GPA was required. So some students think that I need a high
That's what I was
GPA
gonna ask.
or I could get these scholarships. No, that didn't even require a GPA. You had all it asked for. What are your passions, and what do you plan on doing to make an impact in your field that you're pursuing? She did a video on that, and then she won it. Okay, and so that's the fourth one. The fifth one is called your wild card essay. So what type of current event or current trending topic? What's something that a lot of people are talking about that you can write about? Like, what is your take on that? How's it impacting you? How's it impacting your community, your field? Like, what is that? So, for example, months ago, everybody was talking about the recession. How's the
Mhm.
recession been affected? Before that, the pandemic, right? How has
Oh,
everything
yes.
been? How's the pandemic? Now that everything is virtual, how are things different in your
Mhm.
industry? How are things going to be different, in life? Like, how do you see the future looking now that this has happened, right? A lot of people now are talking about artificial intelligence,
Oh, Lord.
right?
Yeah.
So you can talk about the effects of artificial intelligence on the future in your
Yeah.
field, right? And that's what a lot of people are starting to ask. And so those are the type of things where if you have those 5 essays, you put them in the cloud, put them in the Google Drive, and now that you have them in Google Drive, now you'll always have access to them no matter where you are.
I
Because
like
if
that.
yeah, you don't have to have a laptop or your flash drive or anything. You can just access from your phone or any computer that has an internet connection. You can access it because if you come across a scholarship last minute,
It's
it's not
there.
like, oh man, I'm out of town. My flash drive is back home. I don't have it. No, it's right there in your drive. And then if you have your recommendation letters that are generic, right? Not toward one specific organization, but that are generic, you could throw those in the cloud too. So if you ever have to upload those, you can upload your essays as well as the recommendation letters, and you can just continue applying for those scholarships that just come across your lap.
So here's the thing the reason that I asked you to do this interview, I was watching one of your videos where you actually explain this. You said, "Hey, here are the sites to go to. Here are the 5 essays." I don't know if you broke them down, but you was like, "Here, you have 5 essays. If you apply to X amount of scholarships," and I think in the video you were like, multiply however much you need by 10 or something like that. That's how much you need in or whatever applying scholarships. I was like, this is a strategy because I remember when I was applying for scholarships, and I did get some, but it felt like such a chore because I felt like I was just shooting in the dark. Like, oh, here's this scholarship, and it was no set strategy for how to apply. No one saying, hey, you need to do X amount, you need to have these. Like, it just felt like there were so many scholarships out there, and I just couldn't find the ones that were
Mhm.
going to be suited for me. So I guess my to that point though, how do you teach students to stand out to get those scholarships? Because it can be discouraging if you are applying to a lot of scholarships and you aren't getting any of them.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's why I always tell the students up front it's a numbers game and it's a patience game. That way, and I tell them with the expectancy that you'll probably get rejected 9 out of 10 times. And so when they think that, they're like, okay, well, most of the time I'm going to be told no. Then they're not defeated when they do get, when they don't get
Mhm.
the answer. And then when they're thinking about, okay, I'm applying for 10 times more, they do that. So they do the 120 scholarships within 2 months, plus they do 10 times the amount within those 2 months. But most of the time, there are more than 2 months before school starts. So now they're not just going to stop at the second month, they're going to continue. And now the amount that they apply for has increased, and therefore the amount of scholarships has increased. So now, just on the sake of volume, on the numbers alone, now they're increasing their chances even more. So
Gotcha.
now, one thing that when I work with my parents, so I have clients that I work with, my parents and students. So when I work with them, I help them get their essay from done to good and good to great, right? Which is something actually not original. I picked that up from another coach that does something similar to him, but I said I like how she says that, right? But done to good, good to great, right? Because essentially that's what I do too. Like, we just have to get the essays done and then get them better, and then get them
Mhm.
to a point where if it is a 10% success rate, those better essays are going to increase to probably 15% success rate, then 20. And if you get to 20% success rate and you've applied for 10 times the amount you need, 20% is already double the amount you need for that first year or whatever year you're applying for.
Mhm.
And then we're talking about refunds from scholarship, not refunds from student loans, not trips to Cancun and all this other stuff,
That
right?
you're gonna pay back
As you
with
go pay
interest.
back, you're like, oh, I'm having a fun time. And then you be like, okay, where my money? Go ahead and give me them
Sally
coins.
Mae
Let
with
me
their
get them coins.
scholarship acquisition. No, you gonna pay them things back.
Yeah,
With interest.
exactly. But if you have that scholarship money that you don't have to pay back, then it's a little bit easier to take, right? And so this is a way you can increase the likelihood. So I always tell students, facts tell and stories sell. So instead of having your paper read like a English class
Mhm.
essay, right? It needs to read like a persuasive letter, right? So what you're doing is you're trying to put the people, meaning the scholarship organization committee, right? The people that are giving you the scholarship, you want them to really understand you.
Hmm.
And what you want them to understand, what you were feeling, what you were seeing, like use the senses. If you look at all the top scholarship essays, most of them that win, they number one, they start with a hook, right? They start with the hook, like they captivate their attention immediately, and then they continue with the story to tell them or to keep them engaged, right? Like if you ever binge watch like one of your favorite shows, like most of the time they're captivating you at the opening scene, right?
Hmm.
I tell some people like start with the car chase, right? Like what's gonna make them engage and like, oh my goodness, this first sentence has me hooked. Let me continue reading this individual story, right? Um, so I like one instance. So like when I was younger, I went on this survival course, right? And and I could just say, oh well, once I was a part of the, this organization, and then we went on this trip in the woods, and we were able to learn about maps and compasses, and then we were able to meet other people and things like that. So like it sounds real generic, right? Versus, we were in the middle of the woods, 12 strangers, all teenagers. Our batteries were about to die, we were running out of water and we didn't know where to find our next source of water. Right. So it's just like, like, oh, shoot, what is he about to talk? Right. No, no, he was out of water and and everybody else in the group was looking to me for leadership to lead them to safety, right? Like you start with that, and that's just
Right.
like, oh man, like what's gonna happen next, right? Like what is it about your favorite shows or your favorite books or anything that captivates your attention that makes you want to read more, right? And so even with that statement, it's sort of like an open loop or a hook that's gonna capture them that makes them want to read more, right? And then they talk about the experience, and then after that first hook, people are looking forward to the ending, to the story. Like, okay, well, what happened
What
next? How did you
happened?
get? Yeah. And so, there was one student I was working with that she wants to be a nurse, and then we were talking about like, well, what made her want to become a nurse, and she was like, oh, well, I just, my mom, she's in the medical field, and I just wanted to. I said, okay, well, that's not going to win an essay, right? I said, let's go back. Have you ever been hospitalized? And she was like, I have. I said, what for? And then she was like, well, I was in a major car accident where I almost died. I said, okay. I said, so were you afraid? Were you terrified? Were you anxious? And then so she starts talking about these feelings, right? And she's bringing now, and then she's starting to think about it. I was like, okay, was there anybody on the hospital staff that made you feel comfortable and safe? My nurse. She was there with me the whole time. She held my hand. I said, did that have a part to play in why you want to become a nurse? She said, now that I think about it, it does. I remember that vividly. And then she starts unpacking that whole situation, right? So there might be things in our lives that we can't recall up front, but then when we really start to think about it, there are moments that really make us pursue the things that we do or make us
Yeah.
want to do the things that we do. And so that's another thing that helps your essay stand out. Another thing that I like to think about is like if you were the one that was giving out $100,000 in scholarship, right? And you had 100 applications or essays to look through, if you didn't know who you are, would you give this $100,000 to you? And they're like, no, let me go edit this. Let me go, and then no matter what, when they rewrite it with that mindset, then they're like, if this is my only chance to give this message one time and I don't have any redos, let me paint the picture so that they can feel what I was feeling and understand the importance of why this dream, this goal that I'm going for is so important.
So I'm laughing inside because a lot of what you're saying is what I tell my coaching clients in business. Is all about the facts, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Stories sell. One of my
Hmm.
favorite books to read when it comes to like copywriting is Stories That Stick,
Hmm.
and all of this is applicable. So literally, if you can learn the skill of storytelling, it pays dividends no matter what
Yes.
industry that you're
Yes.
in.
Yes. Yes. And that's what I tell my students. So, like when I'm working with my parents and students, I tell them these skills are transferable. They're not just for scholarship essays. They can go into business proposals or ideas, or they can go to cover letters if you're seeking a certain job, right? Like, because you're trying to sell yourself on the employer hiring you, right? Like these skills, to convey a message, right, is so transferable to so many other skill sets, right? And then there's another thing. So when you're applying for all these scholarships and you get used to the no's, then you start to lose that fear of rejection. That's one of the biggest
Mm.
fears a lot of people have, is a fear of rejection. So it's like they don't even attempt or make the first step because they rather not face that rejection. And so when they're used to doing the right activities over a certain consistent amount of time, they know they're going to get the results. And so when, because it's like if you plant a seed and you look 5 minutes later and the plant's not there, you're not discouraged because you know that this is the process. And as long as I trust the process, I'll get the results eventually. Right. And so when they learn that patience and they learn that, okay, that delayed gratification, so to speak, then that transfers over into higher levels of
So
success.
much stuff,
Right.
so much,
Yeah,
so
like they did a
transferable.
Stanford study. As a matter of fact, it's crazy because one of my friends and I were just talking about it. So I just got featured in an article where a guy asked me, Yahoo Finance, the guy just asked me about that, and it was about delayed gratification, and we talked about the marshmallow experiment that they did at Stanford back in the '60s, and they would put a kid in a room with a marshmallow, right? And then they said, okay, if you wait till I come back to eat the marshmallow, I'll give you another one, right? But if you eat it, then you can't. And then they traced and followed those that were able to wait, delay the gratification, and get the reward. They ended up being successful in so many other areas of their life. And so I always try to help them understand these skill sets and these habits could just transfer over into so many different areas. And then when the parents, and more so the parents, when they understand, they're like, oh, my child needs this. Like they
Yeah.
really need this.
I'm thinking about it now. Like my kids are 18 months and 3, and I'm like, okay, Chris, are you gonna be around? Are you gonna be
I
teaching
got a
this?
3-year-old too. I got a 15-year-old, about a 15-year-old and a 3-year-old. So I got
Listen,
a big
let
old
me
cat,
know.
right? I
Because I'm
got you.
like, mental note, let me save this
Yes.
this live stream so I can go
Yes.
back and
Absolutely.
reference it. Matter of fact, let me just buy the book so
Yeah.
that I can go back and reference it. Because listen, we will get these scholarship essays written.
Hello. Okay. Yeah, they have scholarships as early as elementary school and middle school. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, they do for like yeah. And then many of the other ones are like you have to be 16 and older to get the scholarship. So they
Okay.
still start young, which is really cool. And if you're a high school parent listening to this, raise me, RAISE, raise me.com or raise.me. You can get scholarships, micro scholarships from so many different universities just for doing the things you're already doing. So if you get an A in a certain class, you'll get a scholarship. If you're in a leadership or any type of organization, you'll get a scholarship. If you're on an athletic team, you'll get a scholarship commitment. Just for doing the things you're already doing, they'll commit scholarships. One young lady, they featured on CNN. She got over $80,000 just from Raise Me alone, just for doing things she was already doing. So yeah.
Is all this is in your book, right?
Yeah.
Okay, y'all. So if you want chapter, was it chapter 5?
Chapter 5.
If
Yeah.
you want chapter 5 of the book with this information, comment below so that we can get you that link. Chris is gonna give me that link. I will drop it in the description of this video.
Hmm.
But comment so that you can get that link. Like I'm literally like, I'm excited. I'm not even going back to school. I'm not
Yeah.
signing up.
Right.
But I'm excited because this information is out there, and I'm just thinking of all the possibilities that my kids have, the people who are watching that they have for their kids as well. Because again, this information wasn't out. For me, scholarships were overwhelming because I thought I had to apply for the big scholarships, and then you get disappointed when you don't get those. Then,
Hmm.
of course, the local scholarships that are available. So this
Yep.
is so helpful to people who are literally just trying to get an education without having to pay these ridiculous costs for
Yeah.
for a piece of paper that you might not even read.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. That part, right? And then here's another thing. So let's say if we go through the strategy and we still come short of that 100% scholarships and grants. Let's say you got 80% scholarships. So what are we supposed to do with the remaining
Still.
20 if we don't have? Then what we do is like I call it a debt-free degree triangle. So we have scholarships, budgeting or money management, and then automated income streams. So there are a lot of things that students can do to set up one time and get paid over and over. And so I walk my students through the process of getting published on Amazon. So through the process, so they don't have to write a novel or autobiography or anything like that. I walk them through the process of getting like a low content book, like an
Hmm.
activity book or a children's coloring book or an adult coloring book, something simple to walk them through the process that could sell. One of my friends, she's over at UNC, and they had this post on Facebook. They're like, "How are y'all taking all these trips? Like, what are y'all doing?" Because
And
I
these
know
students, right?
everybody. Yeah, so she was just like, "Yeah, well, one of my activity books that I had posted on Amazon giving me an extra 2,500 a month, right?" Yeah,
Wow. And
because it's
adults
so
aren't doing
lucrative.
this.
Right, exactly. And then she matter of fact, so she works at the college. So that's what she does to take her trips. She just lets that pay for her travel as her travel budget. And so I walk students through that process. I also walk them through how to set up like a apparel store. So all they
Mm-hmm.
have to do is like get a logo, and they can use what's called print on demand. So
Yep.
they don't hold any inventory. They can go to like Teespring or Printify, drop the
Printful. Yep.
logo, Printful, and then they'll put it on t-shirts, hoodies, socks, all that stuff. And then they take care of all the fulfillment. So let's say it costs them $10 to make it, and you set $25 on your site for the purchase price. You got $15 in profit every time somebody
Right.
purchases it. And you set up one time, and then you leave it alone. And then, of course, you can drive traffic to it. But other than that, the setup and the fulfillment part, that's already done.
So
And so there's
entrepreneurship in addition to,
exactly, more specifically, passive income.
yep.
Because if they're doing, most of the students will go to college and then they'll cut hair, do nails, they'll do their own fulfillment with their own t-shirts and all that stuff, make
Work
wigs
somewhere,
or work somewhere, but then their time is still equal to their money.
hmm
And then with that alone, it's like the more successful they are, the less time they have for their studies and academics
right.
because they're making money. People are like, your stuff is great. Can you take me on as a client? Boom, boom, boom. And now their individual time for each client is now through the roof. And now they're, instead of working just maybe 10 hours a week on their side hustle, now they're working 50, 60 hours just to maintain the workload and the clientele, keeping them happy. And now they're not even going to class. Now they're not even doing their schoolwork.
Right.
And now they're like, well, I got to drop out because I got to maintain this business. But you know, those are the things that you could set up passively to where you're getting that extra income. And then that's going to make up for the difference in that, in that 20% that we were talking about.
I love that. And to your point, I do agree. I remember having this conversation about, it's very difficult for people who are having to pay for college to also balance that with, their studies.
Hmm.
Especially if you're not being supported by parents, if you don't have parents to be able to support you financially, like you're having to work to pay for this stuff and trying
Yes.
to balance that with school. And then maybe if you want to do other activities, it's almost impossible. So I love that idea of passive income. And my thought is, if y'all gonna be on TikTok anyway, like
Right.
monetize,
Go ahead and get
monetize,
them coins.
monetize.
Get those coins while you're on the
Please, some affiliate marketing,
TikTok.
something to
Yes.
make it worth your time. So I love
Exactly.
that idea.
Affiliate
I love
marketing
that.
is something I teach too. Absolutely. Yeah, because it just makes more sense. And now they're able to still pursue their dreams because they have a passion for that field and they want to make an impact for that degree. And they're not just going for the money. Because some people equate or merge together your grades and your degree with your finances. But those, as we saw, right, could be two totally complete different things, right? Because things are set up differently now. And the way you can leverage your skills, abilities, and talents to grow an income by creating value, right? And getting people certain results or getting people a certain thing that they've been desiring or getting away from pain, one or the other. And then now that you can do that in some form or fashion, then now you've created more value where people will pay you for that value. So, yeah.
Awesome. 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 So you mentioned a book. Is your book where is your book available? What's the name of the book? How do you work with parents and students? Give us all of your details so that we can get more information because this was very helpful.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can so if you go to finlitbook.com or if you just go to Amazon, just type in Chris Corinthian or Financial Literacy 101 for college students. The book will pull up there. Or if you want to just follow me on Instagram, like I said, I'm at the Finlit guy, the FINLIT guy. The financial literacy guy was too long, so
Yeah.
the Finlit guy. And like all my links are right there under my profile or my website, finlituniversity.net. Yep, the Finlit guy, and that'll have a link to all my stuff right there. But yeah, that will definitely have it.
All right, and I will drop those for you guys who want the link to the books, all the social. I will drop that in the description of the video so you can come back and check that out and grab Chris's book. Now, you do work with parents and students, right? So tell
Yes.
us how you work with them and how much you've been able to help them get in scholarships, all that, because I think it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I work with parents. So like if I had to pick one type of parent I work with parents of high school seniors.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
I get them on the path to where they never have to take out a student loan for their child.
Gotcha.
Do I work with other like non-traditional students or students that are in college and parents? And yes, I work with all of them, but my focus is parents of high
Gotcha.
school seniors who don't want to take out student loans,
So
right?
we can't work with you quite yet.
Yeah, you
So
can learn the sauce now, and I'll work with you, right? But what
college
I've
might
seen
change. It might be AI, led college by the
exactly.
time my kids go.
Right. And but what I've seen is that those are the parents that are the most serious and the most dedicated to being committed to following the steps. Any or the parents that have already taken out a massive amount of debt and they're like, I can't take out anymore. Like those are the ones that are like serious. But those that, I have an eighth grader or I have a ninth grader and I'm looking to do this, like sometimes like they're trying to
There's no urgency about
there's
it.
no urgency there versus those are like, no, I need to do this now, right? Now those that are thinking forward and they see the urgency in doing it now, then so one of the things I always ask them, so we have a strategy call and I talk to the parents and we really figure out a roadmap to where they can take what I tell them and do it themselves. But if they want me to work with them, then that's when they'll join me in my program, and it's a community of other parents, so they get a support group with other parents and other ideas and things that have been working for them as well. And then yeah, and then and then I think the average right now is 67,500
That's still
as
a
far as
lot.
the amount of scholarships, right? That they get, after they start working with me. Some significantly more, and then some less, but that's what the average has been right now.
I always like to say something is better than nothing.
Yes,
So
absolutely. And the number is going up because lately a lot more clients have been joining, and then they've been taking action. See, it's like, I can't take the action for you. I can
right,
lead you to the water, but I can't make you drink. I can give you the keys, but I can't open the door.
gotcha,
And so that's what I do. And then those that are really serious about it, those are the ones that get the massive results.
gotcha. Well, listen, I know what to do now. I
Yes.
listen. You tell me they can start in elementary school.
They
Don't
can
play
start
with
an
me.
elevator. Hey, let's
Do
go.
not play with
I
me.
will show you. Okay. I will tell you. Okay. Session's over. All right. This is what you need to do. All right.
My kids, listen, we do have the 529 situation going on, but I can
Good.
assure you, if they can get scholarships,
Oh,
we're
yeah. Then we're going
still
to
going to
take
get
that
scholarships.
529, put in this Roth IRA, and then we're going to go from there. Okay.
Okay. Listen, y'all, if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments. Chris, I appreciate I really had to, after I watched that video, I was like, he has to come on
Let's
and
go.
share this because it's not just pie in the sky, apply for scholarships. Work
Right.
is not just like this general
Mm-mm.
thing that we all know. Like you literally had a strategy. Like I'm like, I can get with that.
Yeah.
Apply to this many scholarships,
Hmm.
have this many essays. So I love that, love that, love that. Again, if you guys want chapter 5 of his book, comment below this video so that I can get you that link. And then also be sure to check out Chris on social media at the Finlit Guy, and I will leave all the links and his book information and all that in the description of this video. Chris, do you have any more parting words that you want to share to the people?
I just want to let you know that it's all starts with mindset. If you believe you can do it, you will. Okay. Those who think they can't, those who think they can, are right. Okay. And so I want you to believe that you are worthy of it. A lot of parents, you'll be surprised, a lot of parents and students don't think that they're even worthy to receive scholarships. Even some of my students that have won so many scholarships in the beginning, before I started working with them, they're like, I don't even think I'm worthy or eligible to get any scholarships. So just know that you are worthy of getting these scholarships, and there are people out here to support your dreams or your child's dream to accomplish anything that they want to accomplish in life.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chris. Guys, be sure again to comment below if you do want chapter 5 of Chris's book. And then be sure to check back to get the links and to connect with Chris at the Finlit Guy. All right, Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And
Absolutely.
guys, we will talk later. Bye.